But there's so many times in our lives that we don't feel it and we don't see it, and we feel just like Zacchaeus, that there is this crowd of people, or there are these crowd of consequences, there are these crowd of situations that are just keeping us from getting to Jesus. Now, let's go a little bit deeper. Look back at verse 1. Where is this city? Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. Now, if I go back to the Old Testament, the city of Jericho had a wall. God tore the walls down. And he's got a man who sees this crowd that can't get to Jesus. But Zacchaeus is going to tear the walls of his heart down to do whatever he can to get to Christ. And we see that Zacchaeus is going to take off, and it says that he ran, right? He ran before. He didn't walk. He didn't stand up and see like, kind of like I said with the Trump thing whenever we went to Johnson City. Like, I get there and I'm seeing all these thousands of people and I'm like, yeah, I can tell time. We ain't getting in there, right? And so what we do? We got in the car and we left. And we're gone, right? Like, no point not getting in there. And so we left. But you know what's funny is a lot of times when that press, that situation, those consequences, those issues are there in front of us, a lot of our Christian walk is the exact same way. We just leave. We're like, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to quit going to church. Forget it. I'm going to quit praying. Forget it. I'm going to quit serving. Forget it. I'm going to quit reading my Bible. Forget it. It's just not happening. It's just not happening. And the unfortunate part is that happens every single day in churches all across America. When you think about America, think about our community. Just think about the Jonesboro community. And I want you to think about people that you know, okay? And I would be willing to bet that every person in here, and there's about 100 in here. Wes showed me the numbers. There's about 100 in here. And I guarantee you that every person in here could think of at least one, and probably more than one person, that right now on a Sunday is sitting at home and refuses to go to church because of some situation, some scenario, some issue that happened in their Christian walk where they said, you know what, I'm done. Whether it was something that happened in their personal life, whether it was church hurt, whether it was something that they felt like that God let them down on in their walk, whatever the case may be, I guarantee you that everybody in here could think of at least one, probably multiple people, that at 10:50 on a Sunday morning, they are somewhere else than the house of God because they have quit. And Zacchaeus, who was a chief publican, who had all the money he could ever want, wanted to see who this Jesus was. And when the people were there and he couldn't get to Jesus, he could have just said, I'm done. And he could have just left. I've got my money. I've got my position. I've got everything I need. I'm done. But he ran. He absolutely ran. Right? As coaches, and there's several coaches in the room, several athletes in the room. As coaches, we always talk about those players that we absolutely love to coach. And we typically, and you'll hear every coach use this, and I promise you about every coach in here has probably used this same analogy, but they'll be like, man, you know what? Oh, so-and-so, buddy. He might not have been the most talented player that I had. He might not have been the smartest player that I had. But I could tell old so-and-so to run through that wall right there, and buddy, he was head down and going through it and wasn't even thinking about it. And we love coaching those kids. And that's who Zacchaeus is. Zacchaeus says, I want to see Jesus. And he just puts his head down and takes off. And he sees this sycamore tree and common sense sets in. I'm short, That's a big tree. Time to make like a monkey and go. All right? And so up the tree he goes, and now he can get to Jesus. So let me ask you something. In your life, when these obstacles are coming up, when these issues of life are coming up, number one, these are not things that God is doing to you. All right? These are things that God just allows free will to happen, and so those events are just allowed to happen, but you have to trust, back to the scriptures this morning in Sunday school, right? Love God with everything in you, and love thy neighbor as thyself. That aspect will help you cover everything you need to know about the Ten Commandments, the Levitical law, any of that stuff. Because if we truly love God unconditionally, then we trust that he wants what's best for us, right? Jeremiah 29:11, right? I know the plan that I have for you. And if we trust that God's plan is good for us, then we trust that no matter what happens in our life, it isn't something that God has done to us. That is old pagan, polytheistic kind of worship. That's where we get that from, right? People think back to the Greeks when the Greeks were worried because a ship sunk and they thought they had made Poseidon mad, right? That's old theological, polytheistic pagan worship. That's not who God is. That's not who Yahweh is. Yahweh is the God that loves us and wants to see us through these situations, but instead of being like Zacchaeus and deciding to make a way to get to Christ no matter what's in front of us, and if it means running and climbing up a tree, then so be it. But I'm going to see Christ in this situation. We decide to quit. But we have got to look at our lives, and we have got to look. We had this conversation among the leadership, right? The building. Man, we were all so excited. We're like, yeah, we're going to put a church on the property, and let's go. And then the numbers come back, 1.5 million. So, what's plan B? Right? Anybody know anybody that's got like a rich uncle that's like, hey, got $1.5 million just laying around, want to make a donation, right? But we talked about this, and I had text messages with different people, and I had people that called me, right? And that was the beautiful thing about this for me. I'm sitting over there talking to Tab at the house, and I'm like, my gosh, like we're having this business meeting Wednesday. What am I going to tell the people? Like everybody's so excited about putting a church on the land and all this kind of stuff. What am I going to tell the people? And I'm like, how? What am I like? This was what we were supposed to do, and this is where we're going. And I'm like stressed out to the max over there talking to her. I'm like, how are the people going to react? And what do I say? And the beautiful thing is, I got about 3 or 4 people calling me, and they're like, "Hey man, are you okay?" I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. Why? Hey, we just don't want you to get discouraged. Hey, we know that God has got this. Like, we know. And it was beautiful to see the leadership. I'm sitting over there like, how am I going to encourage the people to see Christ in this situation? And the leadership was making sure that they were checking on me and going, hey, let's make sure that the pastor is seeing Christ in this situation. And it was a beautiful thing to just see how God continues to move and how we know that, okay, that was the plan. That was what we came up with. It's not there, right? Maybe God's going to provide something else. And if he doesn't provide that, then somewhere there's going to be a rich uncle that just drops $1.5 million in the bank account or whatever. God's going to get there, right? But we have to do our due diligence. And it was beautiful. And I told them this in business meeting Wednesday. It was beautiful to see how not only our leadership, but even people within the church that aren't technically a part of leadership, but we consider them leaders in the church, that just went to bat. And for the next 48 to 72 hours, you see people that are working tirelessly to figure out a plan, to see where Christ is in this taking the wind out of ourselves situation. And it was beautiful because I see our church being just like Zacchaeus and saying, man, here's this thing that's in my way, but let's go climb that tree over there and let's see Christ and get to Christ, because I know if I see him, then it's going to be okay. And too many times in our life, we let situations and we let issues and we let circumstances and we let obstacles completely tear us down. And rather than just running full speed ahead and climbing up in a tree and saying, God, where are you? We quit, right? Think about this. Moses went to a mountain to see God. Jesus went to a mountain to see Moses and Elijah. Transfiguration, right? Like we see these points where people of God are going to a high point in their lives to see God. But we yet choose to stay in the valley rather than just climbing up and getting to a higher point to see Christ. If you enjoyed that message, then you'll want to check out this video for more biblical truths. You can help spread the gospel by clicking the like button or even consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.